guys, in this video we are going to discuss about audit and auditors. That is chapter 10 of the Companies Act 2013, consisting from section 139 to 148. Right? There are 4 sections which are very big sections: 139, 140, 141, and 143. Coming directly into our topic, section 139. What is section 139? Section 139 deals with appointment, rotation, and some other related points to that particular section. We'll directly go into that particular topic. How the subsequent auditors of a company is going to appoint. If it is a government company, or any other company owned or controlled by the central government, state government, or jointly by central government, state government, then for that particular company, the subsequent auditor shall be appointed by the C&AG within 180 days from the commencement of what? Commencement of a financial year, and his tenure will be till the conclusion of AGM. Right? At present, our C&AG, that is the Controller and Auditor General of India, is Raju Maharishi. Right? And coming to the other than the government companies, if the subsequent auditor is going to appoint, it will be appointed by the members at the annual general meeting, and his tenure will be conclusion of that AGM to the conclusion of 6th AGM, and thereby every 6th AGM, meaning his period will be for 5 years. Right? Previously, for every year in the annual general meeting, ratification by the members shall be required, but now there is no ratification. That point has been removed by the amendment. Right? We have discussed the subsequent order, and we are now going to first auditors. How the first auditors are appointed in a company. If it is a government company or any other company controlled or owned by the central government, state government, then within 60 days from the date of registration of the particular government company, C&AG has to appoint the auditor. That is the first auditor. If not appointed by the C&AG within 60 days, then for the next 30 days, board of directors has to appoint the first auditor. Even if board of directors fail to appoint the first auditor, then members in next 60 days, meaning the auditor for the government company, first auditor for the government company shall be appointed within 60 plus 30 plus 60 days. They shall be appointed by the C&AG first. If not by C&AG, then board has to appoint. If not by board, then members. Right? 60, 30, 60. If it is a case of other than the government company, the first auditor shall be appointed by the board within 30 days from the date of registration. If not by the board, then 90 days from the date of registration. In AGM by members. That is, here the word next is not given. That implies that 60 days, next 60 days, 30 plus 60 is equal to 90, right? At EGM, extraordinary general meeting, obviously extraordinary general meeting will be there for the first auditors, right? This is the point relating to the first auditor. And coming to our next casual vacancy, right? Casual vacancy has been dealt in section 139, subsection 8, right? If the same is for other than government company, the casual vacancy shall be filled by the board of directors within 30 days from the date of casual vacancy. If the casual vacancy is due to resignation of the auditor, then the casual vacancy shall be filled by the board, and also it shall get approval in the EGM within 3 months from the date of resignation. Only if it is due to resignation, we are require approval in general meeting, right? And the same, the casual vacancy in case of a government company, if you see, it is within 30 days from the date of casual vacancy. If not done by the C&AG, then it will be done by the board of directors in next 30 days. Act is silent about the members' powers, right? Then members cannot fill the casual vacancy, right? And coming to this, we have discussed subsequent auditor, first auditor, and casual vacancy, right? And the first auditor's term is conclusion of first AGM, and casual vacancy term is conclusion of next AGM. We have a shortcut to remember this entire subsequent first auditors and casual vacancy. Just we can remember like a mobile number 39636 33 333 39636 3333. This 636 side is government company, and this side is other than government company. We can see first auditor 30 days, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, 39636. And also here 30 days, here 3 months. That point shall be remembered. Here 3 months, and 30 days, 30 days. Here next is there, here next is there, next is there, but here it is 90 days from the date of registration, meaning next 60 days, right? And going to our next topic, that is the manner and procedure of selection of auditor rules. How the auditor procedure, manner and selection of auditor will be done. If the company is having only board of directors, that is audit committee constitution is not required, then the board shall recommend the proposed auditor with his qualification experience, considering his qualifications experience, to the members in the AGM, right? Then the members will approve, then auditor is appointed. If the audit committee is required for the company for constitution under section 177, then the audit committee shall recommend to the board. Then the board will recommend to the members. If the board does not think that this auditor is not fit, then the board shall reconsider that decision to the refer back decision to the audit committee for reconsiderations. Like that, then again audit committee will recommend board, and again board will recommend to member in AGM. That is a procedure part. You can just read. That is not that much important. And next going to section 139 subsection 6, that is reappointment of retiring auditors. How the retiring auditor shall be reappointed at AGM other than the rotational auditor. That is obvious. Rotational auditors cannot be reappointed because he has a cooling period. We'll discuss later. Reappointment of retiring auditor at AGM other than the rotational auditor. How it is going to happen, it has been discussed in the section 139 subsection 9. That is first point. That reappointment of retiring auditor shall be done if he is not disqualified. If he is not disqualified under section 141, and 141 subsection 3, and he has not given his unwillingness, meaning he has not given his unwillingness to act as an auditor of the particular company, and also special resolution has not been passed in the AGM that appointment of some other person as an auditor or that particular person is shall not be reappointed. If those two points any special resolution is passed, then that particular auditor is not going to be reappointed, right? What are there are four conditions for a retiring auditor to get reappointed. What are the four conditions? Not disqualified, unwillingness, special resolution is not passed for appointing some other person, or special resolution is not passed for reappointing the same person, for not reappointing the same person, right? And coming to our next section, that is section 139 subsection 10. No auditor is appointed or reappointed at AGM. AGM is held, and what if then auditor is not appointed or reappointed? Nothing has happened. Then the existing auditor will continue to the retiring auditor. Existing auditor will continue to be the auditor of the particular company if no auditor is appointed in the AGM or no auditor is reappointed in the AGM. And coming to next section 139.2 to 139.4, that is the important topic, rotation of auditors. We'll see the first applicability. Every listed company has to follow the rotation of auditors provisions, and also public company having paid up share capital of 10 crores or more, and also private company having paid up share capital of 50 crores or more, or any company whether public or private having borrowings 50 crores or more. That is public company having paid up share capital of 10 crores or more, private company having paid up share capital of 50 crores or more, any company whether public or private having the borrowings 50 crores or more. That is 10, 50, 50. Public, private, any company. In the borrowings, you have to consider the banks, borrowings from the banks, borrowing from the financial institutions, and public deposits, right? The deposit shall also be considered counted for the checking the applicability of that particular section. There is an exception to the particular section rotation, that is 1% company and small company need not comply with the particular rotation provisions. And coming to the main, what is the purpose of rotation? Individual is allowed for only one term, and also if it is a case of a firm, it is allowed for 2 terms. What is the one term meaning? One term meaning is 5 consecutive years, meaning an individual can be an auditor for a particular company for 5 consecutive years. After that, he or she has to take rest. That is a cooling period. 5 years shall be there. If it is a firm, the firm can be an auditor of a particular company for 2 terms. That is 10 years. 5 years one partner, 5 years another partner. Rotation shall be in the internal, right? Internal of the firm. And also the gap period is 5 years. The cooling period we have already discussed. For example, if there is a partnership firm is there and 2 terms have been completed, and another partnership firm is there in which the common partner is there, then that particular partner incoming firm shall not be eligible for appointment of auditor in that particular company. Common partner shall not be there, and also same network, incoming auditor and outgoing auditor shall not be in the same network. Same network in the sense brand name, trade name, common control shall not be there. In that particular incoming auditor also not eligible for appointment as of auditor for 5 years, right? Breaking term for 5 consecutive years will be considered as cooling period. We'll discuss this with an example in our next point. Once again, just see the example one. For example, P and Q are the auditors of a company. In 2015-16, P is auditor, 16-17, P is auditor, and in 2017-18, Q is auditor, and 18-19, P is auditor, 19-20, P is auditor, 20-21, Q is auditor, 21-22, P is auditor. In 22-23, can P do the audit? See, there should be a gap of 5 years. See whether there is a gap. 1, 2 is there. Middle 1 year gap is there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Middle only 1 year gap is there. And next 5. 5 years has been done by P. The gap between is only 1 year. There is no 5 years gap. Hence, P cannot be auditor of that particular company. No, because 5 years is completed and there is no continuous break is there. And coming to our second example, same example, 15-16 P is there, 16-17 P, 17-18 Q, 18-19 P, 19-20 Q, 21-20-21 or 21-22. Different auditors are there. From 1922 23-24, there are 5 different persons and 5 years. There is a break for P for 5 years. This can be considered as cooling period. The same point has been discussed. Then we have, see, in 28-29, whether P can be appointed as an auditor. Yes, P can be appointed as an auditor even if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times are there. These 3 shall be considered as one term, and from here new term begins. So there is 1 year left here, and P can be appointed as auditor. Right? We have completed 139 section and we are going to 140 section. Right? 140 section is removal, resignation of an auditor. Coming to section 140 subsection 1, it is removal of auditor before expiry of his term, and 140 subsection 4 is removal of auditor at AGM, and 140 subsection 2 and subsection 3 is deals with the resignation of auditor, and 140 subsection 5 deals with the removal of auditor by the tribunal. Right? and we'll discuss one by one. 140 subsection 1, before expiry, that is before expiry of his term, can an auditor be removed? Yes, an auditor can be removed before expiry of his term. First of all, board resolution needs to be passed. After the board resolution, within 30 days from the date of passing the board resolution, an application shall be sent to the central government for approval. That application shall be in the form ADT2 within 30 days after board resolution. Then after getting approval from the central government, within next 60 days, a special resolution is to be passed in the general meeting, removal of auditor. See, in the general meeting, ROBH shall be given to the auditor. What is ROBH? Reasonable opportunity of being heard. And next, coming to section 140 subsection 4, that is removal of auditor at AGM. First of all, the eligible members shall give notice to the company, special notice to the company. What is special notice and who are the eligible members? We'll discuss below. First of all, the eligible members will give the special notice to the company. Then the company will send that special notice to the auditor. Then the auditor will give his written representation, his facts, his reasons will be given to the company. Then the company shall circulate that particular written representation to the members, right? That thing should be done. If the auditor is abusing his right, because the auditor has get the written representation power, then auditor is saying this company is very bad, like that, then auditor is saying, then the company can approach tribunal, and the tribunal can pass not to circulate such type of defamatory information about the company, right? And also, if written representation received is too late and no tribunal order was passed opposing the circulation of that particular written representation by the auditor to the members, then such written representation shall be read at the AGM, right? You can see here. Okay. Then the auditor has a right of oral representation in the AGM, even if the written representation is circulated to the particular members. In that AGM, a special resolution is required for removal of auditor. Here also special resolution is required. Here also special resolution is required. And coming to our next one, that is resignation of auditor. The resignation of auditor has been dealt in section 140 subsection 2 and 140 subsection 3. Within 30 days of resignation, means the auditor has resigned. After resignation, within 30 days of resignation, the auditor has to send a statement on reasons for his resignation in ADT 3 to the company and to the ROC, that is the Register of Companies, and C&AG if he is an auditor of government company. Within 30 days he has to send that to in ADT 3, the resignation, right? And penalty, what if the auditor has not complied, that is the auditor has not sent his statement and containing the reasons for his resignation to the company ROC or C&AG, there is a penalty for the auditor. The penalty amount is 50,000 or remuneration, whichever is lower, or 500 for continuing the default day per day, and the maximum penalty is 5 lakhs. What is again the penalty? 50,000 or remuneration, whichever is lower, or rupees 500 per day for the continuing default, or maximum 5 lakhs, right? And coming to the next 140 subsection 5, that is the removal by the tribunal. The tribunal can see to take the issue and remove the auditor and pass an auditor for removal of auditor, or else the tribunal can after receiving the application from the central government or any person concerned, may remove the auditor, right? The tribunal has taken or an application is received from central government or any other person concerned, then the tribunal should be satisfied that the auditor has acted fraudulently or colluded in any fraud, has supported any fraud, or he has known that fraud is happening in the company and he has supported that fraud. Then the tribunal is satisfied with these 2 points, and the tribunal may pass an order for removal of auditor, right? If it is a case from suo motu or an application by any other person concerned, the tribunal will pass an order to the company to remove the auditor. If it is a case the application has been sent by the central government to the tribunal for removal of auditor, then the tribunal has to pass an order within 15 days from the receipt of the application, and the central government may appoint further any other auditor. What is the consequence? See, if any auditor is removed under section 140 subsection 5, very important, if any auditor is removed under section 140 subsection 5, he is disqualified for 5 years in any company. He cannot be appointed in auditor in any company, and also he get attracted fraud penalty because he acted in fraud manner or he colluded in a fraud. That section 447 is applicable in this particular case. And coming to the, we have said, right, eligible members special notice, that point, section 115 of the Companies Act deals with it particular special notice. The eligible member or members is having 1% of total voting power or the paid up share capital of 5 lakhs, whichever is lower, he shall give notice to the company before 14 days of AGM, right? Before 14 days of AGM, he shall give notice to the company, that is special notice he should give. And in the special notice, it should be like, he should mention we are going to appoint another member, or the returning auditor shall not be reappointed. Then only this special notice condition will be satisfied. Then coming to our next section, that is 141, 139 and 140 is finished. And coming to 141, 141 is qualification and disqualification. 141 says the qualifications, who can be the auditor. A chartered accountant in practice is firm, including LLP, shall be the auditor in practice. If it's a case of a firm, the majority of the partners shall be chartered accountant in practice in India, right? That is the case. 141 and 142. 143 is the disqualifications. There are disqualifications. We'll see one by one the disqualification. We'll see the first disqualification. A body corporate other than LLP means LLP can be an auditor of a company, but a body corporate cannot be an auditor of a company. Meaning a company cannot be an auditor of a particular company. Okay. If you see the same body corporate can be an auditor, internal auditor of a company. For internal auditor, there is no such disqualification. For only the main auditor of a company, there is a disqualification. Right? That point shall be kept in mind. And coming to the next point, B 141.3, 141 subsection 3, class B. Officer or employee of a company is also disqualified for being appointed as an auditor. Officer or employee, or a partner or employee of an officer or employee is also disqualified. A partner or employee of an officer or an employee of an employee or an employee of an officer or an employee is not eligible for appointment as an auditor, right? And coming to the next point, that is D point. D point is very important point. A person, that particular person or his partner or his relative, a person or his partner or his relative is holding any security in that CHASO company. That is the 5 companies, CHASO companies. CHASO means company, the main company in which you are going to appoint as an auditor, and the holding company of that particular company, and the associate company of that particular company, the subsidiary of that particular company, and the O is very important, the other subsidiaries of the particular holding company, right? Other subsidiaries of the particular holding company. If any person, his partner or his relative is holding securities or investment in that particular CHASO companies, then that particular person is not eligible for appointment as an auditor in that company, right? Then there is an exception in this case. In case of a relative, there is an exception to the relative, that the relative can hold only in the company up to 1 lakh, equal to 1 lakh he can hold. That is, the 1 lakh is the face value, not the market value, right? If after appointment, if any relative crosses the 1 lakh face value limit, what the auditor has to take? The auditor has to take corrective action within 60 days, right? Within 60 days. That is a very important point. And coming to the indebtedness point, that is, if any person or his partner or relative is indebted to the company, holding company, associate company, subsidiary company, other subsidiaries of that holding company, then also that particular person is not eligible for appointment as an auditor. The limit here is 5 lakhs, less than or equal to 5 lakhs. If equal to 5 lakhs also, he is eligible. If it exceeds 5 lakhs, he is disqualified. The same sense, if the person or partner or relative has given guarantee to the company, the holding company, the associate company, the subsidiary company, and other subsidiary company, the holding company, that is a CHASO company, then also that particular person is not eligible for appointment. The limit is 1 lakh. If the guarantee amount is exceed 1 lakh, it is disqualified. Exceeding the values, disqualified. You should remember exceeding the values. 1 lakh, 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, right? If it exceeds only, it is disqualified. Equal to, not disqualified. And coming to our next point, that is a person or his firm, a person or his firm, a person or firm, same both individual or a firm, is having a business relationship directly or indirectly, is having a business relationship with that particular CHASO SA. There are 6 companies in the particular business relationship point. CHASO SA, company, holding company, associate company, subsidiary company, other subsidiaries of holding company, SCA. SCA is very important. Subsidiary of associate company. 6 companies are there. If any person is having business relationship with the 6 companies, then a particular person or firm is not eligible for appointment of a auditor, right? There is an exception to the particular business relationship point. What is the exception? Business relationship means it's a commercial transaction. If the commercial transaction is the nature of a professional service as permitted by the Chartered Accountants Act 1949, it is allowed. And also, if it is a customer of ordinary course of business, also it is allowed. Right. And coming to our next point, if a person's relative is a director or employment as a director or KMP of the particular company, then that particular person is not eligible for appointment. That relative can be a director or employment in any other company, right? It can be a director in the holding company, subsidiary company, but it should not be director or employee of the particular company, right? This is a very tricky one. And next one is our section G, that is Chartered Accountant full-time employment elsewhere. If the Chartered Accountant in practice is full-time employment elsewhere, should not be eligible for appointment as an auditor. Or if a person or a partner exceed the maximum number of limit of auditships is 20 audits, right? 20 audits. If it exceeds 20 audits, then also that particular person is not eligible for appointment. For that calculating 20 audits, we have to consider 1% company. We have to exclude 1% company, small company, dormant company, private companies. Private company having paid up capital of less than 100 crores, right? Private company having paid up capital of less than 100 crores. If it is equal to 100 crores, that particular private company shall be counted in that 20 limit, right? Then also that particular private company is one more condition is there. It should have filed that financial statements and annual return according to the particular sections 177 and 92, right? And coming to next disqualification, a person convicted by the court for reason of fraud and 10 years has not been elapsed from the date of a sentence of that particular thing. If 10 years has not been elapsed, then he is not eligible for appointment. If 10 years is completed, he is eligible for appointment, right? Then also, if a person is providing services as mentioned in section 144 to the company subsidiary holding, that is only three companies are there. Chance A is not there, O is not there, the particular company directly or indirectly, then that particular person is not eligible for appointment. Right? Section that is section 142 will have completed disqualification, and one more definition is pending. The related definition we'll discuss. Section 142 is the remuneration of auditor. If it is fixed by whom? By who will fix the remuneration of auditor? Who has appointed? They only will fix the remuneration. The general meeting they will fix the remuneration, or as the manner decided in the general meeting, they will fix the remuneration. If it is appointed by the board, the remuneration will be fixed by the board only for the first auditors, as we have already discussed in section 139. Right? And coming to the fees. Reimbursement of expenses shall be included, plus any facility provided to the service is also included. The only thing that is excluded is if any fees has been paid for other services other than the auditor, statutory auditor, then that particular fees shall not be included in the auditor's remuneration. Right? And coming to our definition, right, we have discussed disqualification on 141 subsection 3. Right? In that the word relative has been used in 141 subsection 3 class D and E with the two or three times the relative word is used. We'll see the relative definition. According to section 277 of the Companies Act, the relative definition is, for example, consider I am a person who want to appoint an auditor, and that is me and my wife. Me and my wife are related to each other, and also my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my son, my daughter, and also my son's wife, my daughter's husband are the relatives to me, and my stepbrother, stepsister, stepfather, stepmother, stepson, stepdaughter, no stepdaughter. Stepdaughter will not be considered as related to that particular person, right? See, brother, sister, mother, father, son, daughter, stepbrother, stepsister, stepfather, stepmother, and stepson, son's wife, daughter's husband, and daughter. No, stepdaughter is not related to the particular person, and also wife is also related, right? If it's a case of HF, the members of that particular HF are the relatives of the particular HF. And coming to our main one of the big section in that company audit, that is section 143. 143 will deals with so many things: duty to inquire, duty to report. That is government companies will be there, auditing standards, CARO, fraud reporting. Right? We'll discuss one by one in a very fast manner. 143 subsection 1, that is duty to inquire. Duty to inquire. There are particular points will be there. If the particular point the auditor has found any negative only, then only he has to report these particular points. We'll have a shortcut, that is LIC BP high. L square IC LIC BP high. Right? What is loans and advances properly secured or not? The auditor has to check whether the loans and advances have been properly secured or not, and the terms of the loans and conditions granted are not prejudicial to the company. That thing auditor has to check. If it's a negative, then only auditor has to report his deviations. And next yearly is loans and advances not shown as deposits. The auditor has to check whether the loans and advances are shown as deposits or not. It should not be shown as deposits. I is related to the investment. If the company is not an investment or banking company, then I say that the shares, debentures, and other securities are sold less than the price at which they are purchased. If that thing has happened, an auditor has to check in a particular case. If it is negative, then auditor has to report the deviation. And C, LIC, C is cash. Shares related for cash. Whether particular cash has been received or not. And the books of account is showing the correct reliable position or not. That point auditor has to verify. And B is the book entries. Whether the mere book entries are not prejudicial to the adjustment book entries, right? Dummy entries. That adjustment book entries are not prejudicial to the interest of the company. That auditor has to check. And P is the personal expenses or charged to revenue account. Whether any personal expenses are charged to revenue account. That point auditor has to check. Right? This is a duty to inquire 143 subsection 1. And again next we are going to do 143 subsection 3. That is a reporting point. Duty to report. There will be some points we'll discuss here. First point. We'll just remember information proper, branch, books, AS, adverse, directors, maintenance, IFC, others. What is it? Information proper, branch, books, AS, adverse, directors, maintenance, IFC, others. Right? We'll discuss one by one. If the auditor has obtained all the sufficient information or not, if not, the details will be disclosed with the auditor. He has to particularly report this. And also, if there is a proper books of accounts have been kept by the company according to the applicable financial reporting framework or not, that also auditor need to check. Information proper. Branch books, if the branch audit report is received or not, and the manner in which the branch audit report is dealt in the particular audit report, the auditor has to report. Branch books, the books of accounts is an agreement with the balance sheet and profit and loss account. That thing auditor is to report. Information proper, branch books, AS. Whether the financial is complying with AS. Information proper, branch books, AS, adverse, right? Adverse. Any adverse affects the functioning, because auditor will give some observations or comments of auditor on the financial transaction, right? For that observation, if there is any adverse effect of functioning of the company, that point auditor has to report. information proper branch books EAS adverse directors. If any director has been disqualified in section 164 subsection 2 disqualification, that particular point auditor has to consider and he has to report the particular point. Information proper branch books EAS adverse directors. Maintenance of what? Maintenance of accounts with respect to the qualifications, reservations and adverse remarks of the auditor. That point has to be the reported. Right? And also internal financial controls, whether internal financial controls of the company are adequate or not, or whether that particular financial controls are operating effectively or not, that point auditor has to report. In that particular IFC, that particular IFC is not applicable to the private companies. The private company one condition also that it should not have done default in section 137 or 92. Right? What is the particular not applicability for a private company, which is a OPC company, a small company? The IFC point is not applicable. The internal financial control point is not applicable. And also the turnover and borrowing, that is a TB criteria. The turnover and borrowings less than 50 crores. Uncondition is there. The borrowings from the bank and financial institutions and any body corporate. Here this is very important. Any body corporate. If a particular company has borrowed money from any body corporate, that point or that amount also should be considered for checking the applicability of the internal financial control point. TB criteria: turnover 50 crores, less than 50 crores, and borrowings less than 25 crores. Right? If it is less than 50 crores, less than 25 crores, then that is not applicable. And coming to our next others. In others, there are 4 points. Any pending litigations, there auditor has to report. Any material forcible losses are there, auditor has to report. Any delay in transfer of the IEPF account, as we have known, and section 125 of the Companies Act. That point auditor has to report any delays are from transferring the amount to the IEPF, that is Investor Execution Protection Fund account. And the last point is Mitro Modi, or Modi has come on 8 November 2016 saying that that 500 rupee note, 1000 rupee note is not valid. In that particular case, any specified deposit notes have been done within a particular period, that point auditor has a report. I think this point has irrelevant as on today. Right? And coming to next topic, that is 143 subsection 5, 6 and 7. This is related to the government company. If the government company or owned or controlled by the government, controlled by the central government, state government, or jointly by the central government or state government, then this particular point is applicable. Who will appoint auditor? C&AG will appoint auditor, and C&AG will give direction to the auditor for in which manner he has to conduct audit, and that particular audit will report to the C&AG the audit report. Right? And also, if the C&AG after receiving the report, he can supplement the audit report, or he can issue direction for supplementary audit under 143 subsection 6 within 60 days from the receipt of order. Within 60 days from the receipt of audit report, right, that C&AG can order for supplementary audit. C&AG can also comment, can also supplement the audit report, or he can order for supplementary audit. C&AG can also audit test audit. Right? This is not much that much important. And going to our next, that is 143 subsection 8, branch audit. Branch audit also is normal thing, but only one point is that if the branch is situated outside India, then the auditor of that particular branch should follow the qualification criteria, the particular law of land. Right? And coming to 143 subsection 9 and subsection 10. That is standards on auditing. You just see this standards on auditing shall be recommended by the ICA with which NFRA examines, and recommendations will be forwarded to the central government, and then central government with consultation with NFRA issue the standards, that is auditing standards, SCS. And coming to 143 subsection 11 is our CARO reporting. Other reporting responsibilities, that is the CARO reporting is mentioned in particular section. One second. And coming to our main, that is 143 subsection 12 to 143 subsection 13, that is reporting of frauds by auditor or cost auditor or secretarial auditor or branch auditor. For all auditors, this particular point is applicable. Cost auditor, secretarial auditor, and also for branch auditor. Secretarial auditor is 204 is there, right? 204 in that particular secretarial auditor limit is there. That secretarial auditor also should follow this 143 subsection 4. This is very important. They might confuse with the secretarial audit report. They might ask question this particular thing. If any fraud by an officer or employee of the company against the company is being, that is present continuous tenure is used, or has been present perfect tense is used, is committed, right, is committed by the officer or employee against the company, and the auditor has a reason to believe, then the auditor has to report the fraud. There are two cases. What is the amount of fraud we have to check? Whether the amount of the fraud is less than 1 crore, or amount of the fraud is 1 crore or above. If it is 1 crore or above, then we have to see only suspectable frauds will be reported. But whereas in CARO, the noticed and reported frauds are reported, right? That point shall be the main difference between the CARO and this particular section. And the amount of fraud is 1 crore or more, then the auditor has to, immediately within 2 days, has to send his to the board or audit committee. Then the board or audit committee will reply to the particular auditor's report, giving his observations within 45 days. 2 days auditor has to has to send a report to the board or audit committee. Then the board or audit committee will reply within 45 days to the auditor. There are two conditions in this case also. What if the board or audit committee has not replied, or what if the board or audit committee has replied? If the board or audit committee has replied within 45 days, then within 15 days of receipt, the auditor has to send a report to the report to the central government, and if not, within 15 days of expiry of the 45 days, the auditor has to send the report to the central government in form ADT4. Report of the auditor shall be there. Then reply and observations of the board, if given, they should be there. Here they have not given, that point is not there. And also comments of the auditors on the report and observations given by the board. Here it is there, here it is not there. And note details are being sent to the we have sent to the board and they have not replied, that point should be given in that particular case, right? And coming to the next case, what if the amount is less than 1 crore? If the amount is less than 1 crore, auditor has to say within 2 days he has to report the board audit committee his knowledge of his fraud. Then in that particular he has to mention the nature, the amount, approximate amount, and the parties involved. Then the company will disclose this particular details in the board report under section 134. The same 3 point, the nature, the amount, approximate, and the parties if remedial action is not taken, and the remedial action taken. Only 1 point is extra. Same, the company will disclose as it is in the board report under section 134. And the manner of report, how the manner of report will be there? Auditor has to send his in letterhead. It should be signed. It should be in sealed cover. It should be RAPAD, that is acknowledgement due, registered port acknowledgement due, one should be there, or speed post. Email confirmation should be sent to the government that I have sent a report like this, and also in form 84. What is the penalty for the auditor if he has not sent? If he has not reported this particular fraud of his knowledge? 1 lakh is the minimum penalty, and 25 lakh is the maximum penalty, right? And coming to our next section, that is 144, that is auditor not to render certain services. We have a shortcut IIM, IOB, AF. What is IIM, IOB, AF? IIM, investment advisory services, investment banking services, management services, internal audit services, outsourced financial services, and bookkeeping, actuary services, design and implementation of financial information systems, and any other prescribed conditions, right? We can have a doubt. We have a doubt. This M point we have a doubt, right? Management consultation service. We have seen this management consultation services at 1 point, section 2, subsection 2, class 4 of what? Class 4 of Chartered Accountants Act 1949. In that management consultation services, that is there, that point is prohibited, right? Some points will be there. What is that? Management services can be provided. In a particular section, they will say the Chartered Accountant practice can provide the management consulting services. But here they are saying management consulting services are not, or a blacklist, or a blacklist, prohibited services. Why? The main thing is there they have said the chartered accountant in practice can provide the management consulting services, but in this point the auditor, who is that? The auditor cannot provide the management consultancy services. That is a difference. You have to be very careful in that particular difference. And also the another point is auditor provides services only which are being specified by the board of directors or audit committee. That is normal point. And coming to next section, that is 145, auditor duty to sign report. Who will sign the report? Auditor only sign. And coming to 146. Right to attend AGM, the right to receive notice of AGM, and right to be heard in AGM. The auditor has two rights: right to receive the notice, right to receive any other communications relating to that particular general meeting, and right to be heard in general meeting. And next point is duty. What? Duty. The auditor has the duty to attend the general meeting either by himself or by authorized representative, that is the proxy. That particular authorized representative shall also be qualified to be an auditor. We have 2 sections remaining, and coming to the last one section, 147. 147 is about penalty, overall contravention of section 139 to 146. What is that penalty? For the company, the minimum is 25,000 and maximum is 5 lakhs. 25,000, 5 lakhs. For the officers in default, the minimum is 10,000 and max is 1 lakh, or max 1 year jail, or both, right? Coming to the auditor's penalty, this is important for us. If the auditor has done default in particular section 139, 143, 144, 145, then the penalty is 25,000, 5 lakhs, or 4 times of the remuneration, whichever is lower. And if the auditor has done knowingly, intentionally the mistake, then the penalty will be high: 50,000 minimum, 25 lakhs maximum, or 8 times of the remuneration, whichever is lower. And is there, and 1 year jail. Here or is there, and here and is there for that imprisonment condition. 147 is completed. And coming to our last section, that is 148, cost auditor. Who shall be the cost auditor? Cost auditor shall be cost accountant of ICA. Oh, sorry, not ICA, but ICMA instead of cost management accounting of India. IC cost accountant shall be the cost auditor. Who shall be cost auditor? Cost accountant shall be the cost auditor. And can a company auditor can be the cost auditor of the same company? No, it is not possible. Cost auditor appointed by the board and remuneration is fixed by the members. We have rules. Rule 3 is for cost records. Rule 4 is for cost audit. Cost records, you have to see the turnover 35 crores or more. If the turnover is 35 crores or more in the preceding financial year, then cost records will be maintained by the particular company. For cost audit condition, we have to see whether the particular company is regulated or non-regulated. If it is regulated, we have to see the particular condition. The aggregate turnover is 50 crores or more, and the turnover for which the product or services for which the cost records are required to mandatory maintain, that particular turnover is 25 crores or more, then cost audit is compulsory. And also the non-regulated sector, for that the limit has increased. Aggregate turnover is 500 crores or more, and the turnover for the cost record to be maintained for the product services is 35 crores, 50 crores, 25 crores, 100 crores, 35 crores. The condition is unconditional. We have to be very careful in that. And there is an exception to that particular section. 3 exceptions are there. What is that? Exports. Export exceeds 75% of total revenue. If it is 75%, then also cost audit is mandatory. And if it exceeds 70% of total revenue, then cost audit is not mandatory. And also the particular company is in CEZ, then cost audit is not mandatory. Electricity generation used in captive consumption. If the company is generating electricity and it is using that electricity for captive consumption by its own, then that particular company is not required to conduct cost audit. Right? Regulated sector, there are only short list of there. If you remember the regulated sector, non-regulated sector, we need not remember. Right? What is the regulated sector? Fertilizers, sugars, alcohol, petrol, natural gas, electricity, telecommunications. Right? These are regulated sector. And there is one more point. Cost audit report will be sent by the cost auditor to the board, right? And the company will, within 30 days of receipt of the cost audit report, will send to the central government, and central government may seek for further information, and the company will be the information to the central government. Like this, the process of reporting will be done. And also we have a bonus tip, right? That forms. What are the forms? 4 forms are there in this chapter: 81, 82, 83, and 84. Auditor appointment 81 by whom? By company to ROC within 15 days. Removal before expiry. Form 82 by whom? By company to central government within 30 days. And resignation form 83 by whom? By auditor to company, ROC and C&AG within 30 days. Reporting fraud form 84 by whom? By auditor to the central government within 15 days. Right? These forms may be asked in MCQs. Just by 2 and days are given. That's it all for now. Thank you so much for watching.